Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're looking at IREDA. IREDA, the Indian Renewable Energy Development Agency. We want to know what they're doing, what they're focusing on, what does their future look like, what kind of growth are we looking at? And we're going to be pulling all this information from their 2023-2024 annual report and an investor presentation that they put out. Right off the bat, one thing I noticed is that in April of 2024, they were granted Navratna status.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know what that means.
Well, it's a really big deal for the company. Basically, it means that the government sees them as a top performer and gives them more autonomy to make their own decisions about their business goals.
So it's kind of like getting a gold star. But for a company, so let's break it down. What exactly does IREDA do?
So IREDA is basically India's leading financier for renewable energy and energy efficiency projects. They provide loans and other financial assistance to companies and developers that are working on green energy.
So all the solar panels that we're seeing pop up all over India, they're behind that.
Yeah, they're funding a lot of that. And it goes beyond solar and wind. They're also involved in bioenergy, small hydro, even waste-to-energy projects.
Wow, so they're trying to touch all the bases when it comes to renewable energy.
Yeah, they are.
And this is really important, especially for India, which has a very ambitious goal of achieving 500 gigawatts of non-fossil fuel-based energy by 2030.
Yeah, that's right. They also provide implementation support for key Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, MNRE, schemes, like the National Bioenergy Program and the Production-Linked Incentive Scheme for high-efficiency solar modules.
So they're really right in the thick of it. So they're doing all these different things. Where are they focusing the most? What are their priorities?
Okay, so their annual report actually lists 3 key strategic initiatives. The first one is unsurprisingly scaling up financing. They dispersed a record. Get this, 25,089.04 crore in loans in fiscal year 2024. That's their highest disbursement ever.
Wow. They are not messing around.
Yeah, they're really putting their money where their mouth is.
All right, so what's the second area of focus?
Well, the second one, decarbonization and green growth are central to their mission. They are all about helping India transition to a low-carbon economy. They're trying to develop the entire renewable energy infrastructure.
It sounds like they're really looking at the big picture. They're not just, throwing money at random projects. They're trying to have like a long-term vision.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, and what about that third initiative?
So the third initiative is digital transformation. They've gone completely paperless, and they're working on digitizing all their processes to make things smoother for borrowers.
Okay, so basically cutting down on the red tape, making things easier for everyone.
Exactly.
That's great. Now, I know that they're all about efficiency, but it sounds like they're also looking at the social and environmental impacts of these projects that they're funding.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They have this robust environmental and social management system in place to make sure that everything they do is sustainable and responsible.
That's really good to hear. So it sounds like they're really on the move. They're doing a lot. But what does the future hold for IREDA?
Well, the future looks pretty bright for them. Their financial performance is really strong. They hit a record profit after tax of 1,252.23 crore in FY23. And then with that Navratna status, they now have even more autonomy, so they can move quicker and make bolder decisions.
Wow, so they have the financial muscle and the freedom to act. That's a pretty powerful combination.
And they're aiming to achieve Maharatna status by FY30, and that's like the top tier for public sector enterprises in India.
Wow, so they're really reaching for the stars.
Yeah.
So we've talked about what they do, where they're focusing, and what the future holds. But let's kind of zoom in a little bit. Let's talk about the specifics. What are some of the projects and schemes that they're working on right now?
Well, one area where IREDA is making a big splash is by supporting the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy's key schemes.
Okay.
They're really important for rolling out things like the National Bioenergy Program and the Production-Linked Incentive Scheme for high-efficiency solar modules.
Okay, so bioenergy and solar power, those are great buzzwords. But what do those programs actually do?
So the National Bioenergy Program, that's all about promoting biogas and biofuels as an alternative to fossil fuels.
Right.
So trying to, create a cleaner and a more energy secure future for India.
Got it.
And then you have the Production Linked Incentive Scheme. And that one's all about promoting domestic manufacturing to make India a global hub for solar tech production.
So they're not just funding projects. It sounds like they're building these entire ecosystems around renewable energy.
Yeah. Exactly. They want to foster innovation, they want to create jobs, and really solidify India's position as a leader in this renewable energy space.
That's fantastic. And speaking of, these different areas, what about electric vehicles? Everyone's talking about electric vehicles these days. How is IREDA involved in that transition?
So one of the big things that they're doing is financing electric vehicle charging infrastructure.
So all those charging stations that we're starting to see pop up, that's them.
Yeah, a lot of that is them.
Wow, that's really cool.
And they're also exploring financing options for electric buses and other EV initiatives as well.
So it sounds like they're really trying to tackle this renewable energy transition from every angle.
Yeah, they're covering a lot of ground.
And they're doing it all while maintaining a really impressive financial performance. So it seems like they're striking that balance between ambition and responsibility.
Definitely.
But let's talk specifics for a second. Can you give us some examples of projects that IREDA has funded and the impact that they've had?
Sure. If you look at their loan book, you can see a good geographic spread. As of March 31st, 2024, Andhra Pradesh had the biggest chunk at 15.56%, and then Karnataka was close behind at 14.07%.
Okay, so they're funding projects all across different states.
Yeah, and it's not just the big states. They're also funding projects in places like Sikkim and Himachal Pradesh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it shows that they're committed to promoting renewable energy even in these areas that are harder to reach.
That's really cool.
And one specific example I wanted to highlight is the 3-megawatt solar power project. It was set up by Vandana Ispat PVT Ltd in Raipur, Chhattisgarh. So this project is generating clean energy and contributing to the local economy.
That's fantastic. I love hearing about projects that are both good for the environment and good for the community.
Yeah, for sure.
But, while IREDA's track record is pretty impressive, what are some of the challenges that they might face as they continue to grow?
Well, one challenge they might face is increased competition. As India's renewable energy market really heats up, more and more players are entering the financing arena.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that could put pressure on their margins and make it harder for them to secure deals.
So they can't afford to just rest on their laurels.
Right. They got to keep innovating.
What else might they need to be thinking about?
Well, the regulatory landscape is another potential hurdle. Because the renewable energy sector is still relatively new, those policies are constantly evolving.
And they need to be able to keep up.
Exactly. They got to be nimble and adaptable.
Makes sense.
And then another area where they really need to be paying attention is risk management as they expand their portfolio and venture into new areas like electric vehicles. They need to make sure that the projects they're funding are financially sound.
So they would be smart about where they put their money.
Exactly.
But so far, they seem to be doing a pretty good job of that.
Yeah. They've got a really strong foundation, experienced leadership, and a real dedication to their mission.
Now, I know that we've been focusing on what IREDA is doing right now, but I'm curious about their journey. How did they become the powerhouse that they are today?
Well, it's a pretty interesting story. IREDA was founded all the way back in 1987.
Wow. They've been around for a while.
Yeah.
Oh.
And in the beginning, they were primarily focused on financing wind and small hydro projects. Those were like the pioneers back then.
Right.
But as the renewable energy landscape expanded, so did IREDA's scope. And one of the big turning points for them was the introduction of the National Solar Mission in 2010. That was a huge program. And IREDA was really instrumental in providing the financing to make it a success.
So they were like the backbone of India's solar revolution.
Yeah, pretty much. And they were more than just lenders. They were actively participating in policy discussions, knowledge sharing, capacity building. So they were really true partners.
So as the solar market took off, so did IREDA's financial performance.
Exactly. It was kind of like a snowball effect.
And that success led to them receiving some special recognition from the government, right?
Yeah. In 2023, they were granted Schedule A CPSE status by the Indian government.
Oh, remind me what that means again.
So CPSE stands for Central Public Sector Enterprise. So basically it means that they're a company that's owned by the Indian government.
Yeah.
And Schedule A status is kind of like the honor roll for CPSEs.
Right.
It recognizes their exceptional performance and their importance to the country. It comes with a lot of perks like greater autonomy and enhanced financial powers.
Wow. So more freedom and resources. And that recognition kind of set the stage for an even bigger milestone.
Yeah.
Which was that Navratna status that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is like a huge honor for Indian companies.
Huge honor. It's only for the absolute top performers. And it acknowledges IREDA's consistent excellence in their financial performance, their corporate governance, and their contributions to India's national goals.
Wow. They've come a long way.
Yeah, they have.
From funding just wind and small hydro projects to being a major player in the entire renewable energy sector.
For sure.
That's really an inspiring story.
Yeah.
It shows what can be achieved with vision and hard work. But it's also important to remember that IREDA is not operating in a vacuum.
Right.
The global landscape is constantly changing.
Exactly.
And those changes can have a big impact on even the most successful organizations.
For sure.
So what are some of the global trends and challenges that might influence IREDA's future growth?
Well, one of the biggest trends right now is that rising awareness of climate change.
Yeah.
And the push for decarbonization around the world.
So you think that would be a good thing for IREDA, right? More demand for renewable energy.
You'd think, but it also means increased competition. As more and more countries are setting these ambitious renewable energy targets, more financing institutions are entering the global market.
So now they're not just competing within India, they're competing on a global scale.
Exactly.
What else should they be watching out for?
Well, the rapid development of new renewable energy technologies is another major factor, like green hydrogen, advanced battery storage, offshore wind, all that kind of stuff.
So they need to be able to adapt.
Yeah.
And support those new technologies.
Absolutely. And of course, we can't forget about all the geopolitical uncertainties and the economic volatility, the supply chain disruptions, rising interest rates, fluctuating exchange rates, all that can have a big impact on their operations.
So it sounds like risk management is going to be key for them moving forward. But let's shift gears for a second. We've talked a lot about the big picture stuff, but I'm curious about what IREDA success actually means for the average person in India.
Oh, yeah, that's a great question.
How does their work translate into tangible benefits for people on the ground?
Well, first and foremost, it's helping create a cleaner and healthier environment for everyone.
Okay.
Less pollution, cleaner air, healthier lungs.
Yeah, everyone wins with that.
Exactly. It's also contributing to India's energy security by supporting renewable energy. They're helping India reduce its reliance on those imported fossil fuels, which means greater stability for the economy.
So they're good for the planet and the economy.
Pretty much.
That's a good combo.
Yeah.
And what about jobs? They're creating jobs, right?
Oh, yeah. Tons of jobs. The renewable energy sector is booming, and IREDA's funding is helping create thousands of jobs.
Wow. So clean energy, economic growth, job creation, it's all connected.
Yeah. It really is a fantastic cycle.
But IREDA is right at the heart of it.
Right at the heart of it.
Well, they have a lot to be proud of. But now I think it's time that we turn our attention to the people at the helm.
Yeah.
Let's talk about IREDA's leadership and governance.
Let's do it.
So in part 3, we'll take a closer look at the individuals who are steering IREDA towards success. We'll examine their leadership styles, their vision for the future, and the values that guide their decision-making.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's talk leadership.
Yep.
Who are the key players at IREDA, and what makes them tick?
Well, at the top, you have the chairman and managing director, Pradeep Kumar Das. He's been leading the charge since May 2020, and his vision has really shaped IREDA's direction.
So what's his leadership style like?
Well, from what I've read, he's a really interesting combination of strategic thinker and hands-on manager. He sets these ambitious goals, but he's also very involved in the day-to-day operations, making sure that everything stays on track.
So he's not just a figurehead.
No, not at all.
He's really in the trenches.
Yeah, he's a very hands-on leader.
And what about the rest of the leadership team?
They've got a really strong board of directors, a lot of experienced professionals from different backgrounds.
So they have a good mix of perspectives.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's got to be helpful when they're making decisions.
Absolutely. It allows them to approach challenges from different angles.
Now, we've talked a lot about their successes, but what are some of the challenges that they might face when it comes to leadership and governance?
Well, one of the biggest challenges for any company in this sector is attracting and retaining top talent.
Yeah, especially with the renewable energy market growing so fast.
Yeah, everyone's trying to hire the best people.
So how do they stay competitive?
Well, they have to offer competitive salaries and benefits, and they have to create a really great work environment.
So it's not just about the money.
No, it's about creating a culture where people feel valued and appreciated.
What else should they be thinking about?
Well, succession planning is another big one.
As people retire.
Exactly. They need to have a plan in place to make sure that there's a smooth transition.
Makes sense. And of course, we can't forget about the fact that they're a public sector enterprise, which means they have to deal with all the complexities of the government system.
Right. There's always the potential for bureaucracy and political influence.
So it sounds like their leadership team needs to be pretty skilled at navigating those waters.
Yeah, for sure.
But from what we've seen so far, they seem to be doing a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, I say so.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of IREDA. They're a really impressive organization. And they're doing some amazing work in the renewable energy space.
Yeah. They're a great example of what can be accomplished when you have a clear vision, a dedicated team, and the support of the government.
It's really inspiring to see what they've been able to achieve. And it makes me hopeful for the future of renewable energy in India and around the world.
Me too.
So that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, keep those brains buzzing and stay curious.